Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video where today we return with round 19 of season 2 of the F124 My Team career mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here for the US Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the last video that went live last week from Singapore, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. We as a team, towards the end of the season, seem to be making huge leaps forward. We are now up to 4th best in terms of theoretical performance inside this game. We have jumped McLaren and Mercedes. Things are starting to get a little more unpredictable inside this series right now, and I am really loving it. Taking a look at our Drivers' World Championship, Charles Leclerc and Ferrari still way out in front now of Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. It seems like Mercedes have just completely collapsed towards the end of the season. However, as we head to COTA though, this has often been a good track for Lewis Hamilton in years gone by as well. Red Bull with a small buffer over McLaren, who also have a small buffer over Aston Martin. That's going to be a big title fight to watch out for between now and the end of the year. My goal is still to try and see if we can get ahead of Sergio Perez, who has scored points back-to-back weekends now for the organisation as well. But 6 races to go with the season. 3 of them are sprint weekends. There's a lot of opportunities to try and bag points between now and the end of the campaign. If you're new around here, please do make sure you get yourself subscribed to the channel as well. We're trying to hit 5k subs at the moment. And yeah, let's head out then onto the circuit here in Texas.
The party in the USA continues right now. The circuit of the Americas, undulating, high speed, downright thrilling. It is time for qualifying to set the grid for the Grand Prix.
Well, where I don't run this series as regularly as my mainline F124 driver career mode, I always forget. And when I say always, I mean always forget the different way sprint qualifying works inside this series. First lap, as always, is going to pretty much be a write-off. It's just going to be used to trying to settle the car in, ready for qualifying. I'm not really convinced of the pace this weekend. COTA, for some reason, seems to be an AI playground inside F124. There's a lot of tricky traction zones around this venue that the AI seem to be very strong off. But that being said, obviously, we have now got one of the most competitive cars on the grid. So I'm kind of hoping, points should be possible in every single race between now and the end of the season. What I'm also loving is how different now the performance is starting to look to what we get in our other F124 series. Obviously, McLaren over there are one of the strongest cars on the grid. Here, doesn't seem to be the case. So we're still waiting for some rule changes, kind of news coming for next season as well, which hopefully will be confirmed in the not too distant future. But yeah, we just want to try and finish this year strong. And I reckon if there are some reg changes, if we nail it, we could be in for the championship fight next season. Making our way, though, up in towards the final couple of corners. Really difficult to try and spot your turn and in point through that penultimate one, but we did alright that time round. One more corner to go. Get the car chucked in, up over the curbing. We go P12. Only a couple of tenths away from Checo. Not a bad first run. You can see as other times have come up on the board then, even the Haas cars have gone quicker than us at the moment. World Championship threat Lewis Hamilton all the way down in P18. He needs a big improvement here. Is everybody out there for their last-ditch run? Are we going to be able to find any more time in this car? I didn't quite use as much battery as I probably should have last time around as well, so we've got to be careful that we, just make sure that we use it all, but don't use it all in the wrong places. It is a very fine balancing act inside this game there as we make our way off of turn 1. The S's with this downforce setup is so much fun. Flat out, and flat out completely through all of those. It's brilliant. Down a couple of gears as you make your way into Sector 2. Down another one just to try and stop the front end from pushing out. And then try and open up the circuit on the exit there up over the crest. We actually did very well, though, through that first part of the lap on mediums. There's not a lot of time to find when it's completely flat. Good traction, though, as we make our way out onto the back straight. I think Hamilton has rocked his way back up the order. But yeah, he'll need to try and get ahead of Charles Leclerc. He needs a couple of big results. And with a car that apparently now is suffering from a performance deficit, that's not going to be easy to come by. But you just see as the lap unfolds, we are finding more and more here. Purple in through that middle sector, of course. We stormed the pole last time out in Singapore through a little bit of luck with the weather conditions. We timed our final lap absolutely perfectly. Are we going to be able to do the same here as again? We haven't been able to use as much of the battery as I wanted to. One more corner to go, though. We are close to a second up on my previous lap time. Try to avoid the understeer too badly. 8/10 improvement. P4. I will take that. Well, there we go then. George Russell, despite Mercedes' apparent lack of pace, doesn't seem to have stopped him this weekend. Pole position, ready for the sprint race. They're ahead of Fernando Alonso and Charles Leclerc. 5 cars from 5 different teams making up your top 5 in the end. Disappointing to see Perez struggling as much as he did, as Hamilton only good enough for P15 there on the grid. Luckily, I'll have another go at it when we head into the Grand Prix proper, but for now, it's time for the sprint.
So it is all about speed in today's sprint. Not very many laps and no chance to get ahead on strategy. Who here today has the raw skill to take them to the top? We're racing today then in Travis County, Texas, where 20 corners and speeds of up to 200 miles per hour await us on this magnificent racetrack. It's 60% full throttle with plenty of good opportunities to pass, especially through the 2 DRS zones into turn 1 and the long back straight into turn 12. What a race we have in store today. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position, and it's Fernando Alonso alongside. Considering the rest of the grid we have Leclerc, Mr. Monaco, Verstappen, Sainz, Oscar Piastri, Norris, Stroll, Gasly, Albon, Tsunoda, Iwasa, Perez, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Théo Pourchaire, Joe, Bottas, Ocon and Logan Sargent. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We will soon find out.
Well, here we are then down on the grid, ready for the sprint race. There was a threat of rain, actually, before the start of this one, but it looks like it has stayed away. Now, could the soft compounded tyre go the distance? Apparently, I can't even change anything. Oh, we can give it a whirl, but yeah, they're not going to be fun towards the end of the afternoon. I'd rather just take some pace, try and bag a few points on the board. We could hopefully jump over 100 points this weekend, which I would be quite happy with, you know, kind of the trajectory of the car at the moment there. But yeah, we've got Ferrari, Aston Martin, Mercedes just in front, Red Bull and those McLarens lurking behind. It is 5 red lights here on the grid in Texas. And it is a lights out, and away we go there. Carlos Sainz getting off to a rocket start, so does Alonso. Straight to the lead of the Grand Prix. By the time we get in towards turn 1 there, we're going to try and keep hold of our position through those first couple of corners. There are Sainz again hounding me off of turn 2. They're side by side into the S's. We're going to go on lap 1. We'll just try and make sure they give each other the room there. But again, just like we said in qualifying, supreme confidence in the car in through these S-bends here. We've really tried to focus on making sure that we've got a car that works through there, so we can stay closest to the car in front as we make our way down through the detection point on this lap. But yeah, Fernando Alonso, of course, took that win last time out in Singapore. He'll be looking for another one today on Saturday in the sprint. And of course, yeah, the big event tomorrow as well there. And you love to see, you know, I like it when you get various drivers inside this game, you know, that are fighting at the top, that are fighting for wins and things like that. You know, a bit of a shake-up, you know, a bit like real life 2024. It's become a bit unpredictable. Obviously, we're racing in Texas in a couple of weeks' time. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping the final 6 races can really deliver some drama as well for the end of the campaign. But yeah, as we try and throw this car through the final few turns, though, gonna be interesting to see what the pace is like against the front runners. Was qualifying a bit of a flash in the pan. The lap felt very good, but often this car has been quicker in race trim than qualifying. Oh, here we go. Russell already then trying to make a move on Alonso down the end of the back straight. Not able to get the car alongside there. Luckily, the end of that straight, you can take a lot of curb through that next corner, of course. The rear 2 wheels still on the circuit, when the front ones just trim over that apex. And even on strict track limits, the game will allow you to get away with that one as well there. But as we round our way up in towards the final few turns, just see everyone even behind us able to stay fairly bunched up early on. Alonso, though, was really come out the gates running here try to kind of dictate the pace, and he has set a fast pace for this sprint. I guess the clue is in the name there, as new fastest lap. Are we going to see Russell close enough to Alonso into turn 1? Not quite enough. Well, George Russell, I tell you what, he always seems to go well around this Circuit of the Americas inside F1 24. So does Fernando Alonso. So we're going to try and get a run on Charles Leclerc then. Russell going to try and have a look around the outside of the Aston Martin as well there, as wheel to wheel with our World Championship leader will go. Russell's able to pull off the move. I haven't been able to just yet. Although Alonso's not going to give it up without a fight there. Still, the Spaniard tries to hang up the inside. We're going to launch an attack down the inside of Charles Leclerc through the very next corner there. And I'm sure, I mean, he's got everything to lose, not a lot to gain at this stage of the campaign. Hence why we can try and do the old up and under through the Turkey S section. But again, that Ferrari looking very, very quick there. But Russell now to the lead of the Grand Prix. Leclerc trips himself up through that final corner, desperate to try and give me some space. And as we try and get the run back down towards turn 1 then, we're still wheel to wheel with the Monegasque driver. This is brilliant battles early on in the Grand Prix. Again, Leclerc can't just quite chop me off on the exit turn 1. We will slip down the inside as we make our way through turn 2. And again then as we tuck our way into the S's, I mean even in race fuel, or sprint race fuel I should say, this thing's still very, very agile through these corners. You can just see, just take a little bit more time out of our top 2. Oh, come on then, Fernando Alonso, he just does not seem to have the pace right now. Maybe work those tyres a bit too hard. As soon as I say that though, he's going to get the run on George Russell. Not really any opportunity for us to kind of hang around there, so we'll try and cut back on him on the exit of the turn. Alonso and I now wheel to wheel, and this gives Russell a golden opportunity to try and run away. We just might keep the wheels inside the white lines. We'll squeeze Alonso out on the exit of the corner there, and I think even Leclerc now wants to try and get involved. But up into P2 we go then of this GP, and well, based on theoretical performance, the Mercedes should be the easiest of the 3 to overtake. Well, less than 3 laps to go then, and Russell really does seem to have managed the pace very, very well here. He's got enough that he just seems still pushing away a little bit right towards the end of this one. I'm having to try and use that battery a little bit more down the back straight there. You can see though, because you run such high aero around this circuit, the DRS is very, very powerful. As again, Russell will just try to move to cover us off. Whoa, in towards the corner, a little bit slip and sliding around as we make our way through, but we've got to just try and almost bait him into using too much of his battery. We did this perfectly in the Williams Road to Glory race. That video went live a couple of days ago here on the channel from Imola. So that's exactly what we're looking to try and do, but it will basically give us one opportunity on the very last lap. No! No! Oh, man! I can't believe that. I had an engine failure. I mean, I'm not too gutted because it's in a sprint race, but fighting for the win, it's all gone up in smoke on us out of nowhere with a lap to go. I did not know you could have one that late in a sprint, to be honest, but, well, just as I was planning my final attack on Russell, we are out of the sprint here in Texas. Well, there we go then. George Russell takes that win in the sprint with my mechanical failure. It kind of gave him a bit of a buffer over Alonso and both Ferraris there. Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, Norris and Stroll rounding out your top 8 and your point scorers in the end. Does that do anything to our Drivers' World Championship? Well, Leclerc, it further extends his gap now, 52 points over Lewis Hamilton. Carlos Sainz there, only 21 back as Alonso, still steadily bringing himself into that fight as well, ahead of George Russell. Stroll as well, I mean, he takes 1 point out of me. I don't think he's going to score 37 before the end of the year. Red Bull crossed 300 points as the gap between them and McLaren 14, and the gap between McLaren and Aston Martin down to 12. Let's head into real qualifying though, and then of course into the Grand Prix proper.
The party in the USA continues right now. The Circuit of the Americas, undulating, high speed, downright thrilling. It is time for qualifying to set the grid for the Grand Prix.
Well, after that disappointment then in the sprint race, we've got to try and get on with it and get another good qualifying effort out here on Saturday afternoon. Can we go any better than P4? And again, I've just got to use the battery everywhere, it feels like at the moment. I mean, this car is slowly getting better and better towards the end of the season. I mean, we could have potentially taken the win earlier on today. So we are hungry and looking for a little bit more success as well. Luckily this time we do get 2 opportunities on the self-compounded tyre, which means once again we can enjoy that first sector. What a roller coaster it is. So much fun. COTA, I must admit, the second half of the lap I do find a little bit awkward at times, especially obviously with these new ground effect cars where they are still quite understeery in the F1 games. But when you get it nailed, it is a really, really good fun circuit, as we are about to get blinded by the sun as we make our way out onto the back straight. Making our way, though, up through the final couple of corners. This first lap, once again, has felt really nicely hooked up, and I've managed to just use a bit more of the battery as well there. A bit conservative through the final couple of corners, but up towards the line we will go. That was nicely hooked up on the exit at 1:30.3. Alonso is so close to going sub 90 seconds. And immediately, that's exactly what George Russell will do. Well, everybody out then on their final runs here in qualifying, but still, only George Russell has gone under that 90 right now. Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton right next to each other. So Hamilton has had a better qualifying effort than he managed in the sprint race there. But as we try and put the power down then, can we join George in what is currently a very, very exclusive club? COTA. It is a really, really fun circuit when you get the lap nailed, as there we go, Charles Leclerc will get sub 90 as well. 29.887 by Charles Leclerc. We need about another half a second if we want to beat that. Norris now, there's a 29.8 as well, so track is definitely ramping up right towards the end of qualifying here. And this is exactly what we love to see, as more and more times improving all around us. But are we going to be able to do the same there? A little bit wide up over the top of the hill, but we are a 10th up. So we make our way down in towards the hairpin. So important you get your braking right and roll on that throttle there. Is now down right onto the cusp of the top 10. Still just ahead of our teammate Sergio Perez. I mean, if we could get another pole position here, I would be very, very happy. But we're going to need a lot through that final sector of the lap. Braking at about 130 meters out. Oh, a little bit wide there on the exit. And again, just struggled to get the power down. It's so important that you keep the car nice, clean and tidy through these final few corners. Oh, slap the inside curve. That's going to give us a bit of oversteer as we try and make our way up in towards the final couple of turns. And I mean, so fast through that section of corners, but just a few more apexes to go. Chuck it in through that fast left-hander. One more left. Are we going to be able to find any more time? Yes, we are. 3.5 tenths. It is a 1:30 flat. And we end up only in P6. Well, there we go then. Lando Norris storms to pole position here in Texas. But Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, we said at the start of the weekend how their pace looked to be lacking. They are right in it. McLaren and then Mercedes, Ferrari. We will line up P6, though, ahead of Fernando Alonso. Yuki Tsunoda, only quarter of a second away from pole in that V-Cub. Quicker than either of the Red Bulls is a really, really good effort there. Perez will line up alongside his former teammate in Max Verstappen. The gap's a little bit more spread out than we saw in the sprint, but now it's time for the Grand Prix proper.
F1 is so popular in these parts now that we race here 3 times a year, but let's give full respect to COTA, or the Circuit of the Americas if you prefer, which laid the foundations for it. It still remains the United States Grand Prix. We're racing then today in Travis County, Texas, around the 20 corners of the wonderful Circuit of the Americas. We'll be reaching speeds around 200 miles per hour here today, and there are plenty of good opportunities to pass, especially through the 2 DRS zones into Turn 1 and the long back straight into Turn 12. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Russell, Sainz, Mr. Monaco, Fernando Alonso, Tsunoda, Oscar Piastri, Verstappen, Perez, Stroll, Gasly, Iwasa, Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Ocon, Albon, Teo Porcher, Bottas, Sargent and Zhou Guanyu. And now it's time to head down to the track. Hello everyone, welcome to the commentary box. I'm Alex Jakes and we say hello to Naomi Schiff. Well, it's all about forgetting last time because that was a bit of a shocker. How did they change the story today?
It is true, they had a really tough day in the office last time out, but they cannot dwell on that. It's so important to turn the page and start on a blank slate, because the more you dwell on that, the less it's going to push you in the right direction. So take some notes. Obviously there's things to be learned, but move on.
Well, I remember back on F1 23, occasionally, if you got an engine penalty in a sprint race or an engine failure, you'd then get one in the Grand Prix as well. It didn't happen every time, but it did happen fairly often. I don't know why, but I'm just getting the feeling we're going to have another one in the main event here. But we've got 28 laps ahead of us here from the Circuit of the Americas. The soft compound tyres, they hung on pretty well in the sprint yesterday. I'm looking at it, though. Could it be worth a two-stop? And maybe going mediums to the hour. It reckons it's 14 seconds slower than that. So I don't think that one is going to be worthwhile. We'll stick with the one stop, mediums over to hards, and then if we get a safety car or something like that, then maybe it'll spice things up later on in the race. But Hamilton and Leclerc, the two title rivals on the second row, it's 5 red lights, and it's lights out, and away we go. They're off to a fairly decent getaway as we try and make our way up in towards turn 1. Fernando Alonso always seems to start well in that Aston Martin car. There is already both Lewis and Leclerc getting around his teammate George Russell. Lando Norris, though, will lead the way as we make our way into the S's for the first time on Sunday. So, yeah, good, clean, tidy start by the McLaren man. Charles Leclerc as well, I'm sure, will be happy that he's navigated both of those Mercs. I mean, how on earth they've still ended up on the front row as, like, the 7th fastest car, apparently, according to this game. Maybe we just don't trust F1 24 and its performance chart there is all right up on the gearbox of Carlos Sainz. He gets a little bit slippery on the exit of the corner, and we will try and make the run past him then. How quick is that Ferrari in a straight line? Quicker than us without DRS there, so Sainz maybe just using a little bit extra battery to try and cover us off. We will keep the nose, though, down the inside into the very next corner there and move up then into P5 of this race. But Hamilton, he knows this weekend is critical. He's got to try and keep that gap to Leclerc under 2 race wins, because that way, obviously, if Leclerc gets a mechanical failure anywhere, it is game on towards the end of the year. Hamilton, though, the odds are stacked against him. He hasn't beat Leclerc in quite a while, but Cota surely is going to be a circuit where the opportunity opens up for him.
Here's some information on Russell for you. They've got an issue with their car. They're going to be slow.
That's very, very early on then, but George Russell already with mechanical gremlins then in this Grand Prix. You can just see instantly he gets a bit of a wobble, and he'll struggle through the corners then. So DRS is enabled, but I'm a little bit concerned instantly that we're going to drop out the range of Lewis Hamilton. Looks like Russell has stayed within that DRS window there as Leclerc trying to hound Lando Norris even at the front of the order. I mean, Russell here, despite those gremlins, he doesn't want to give up on it. We'll go side by side down the hill at turn 1. Up into P4 we go, though. But you can see the gap to Lewis Hamilton, 1.3 seconds, as he's just struggling to keep up with the Ferrari and the McLaren in front of him. So, yeah, really, really not getting the work done right now, Lewis Hamilton. But he has got to wait and see if this race comes to him. Oh, there we go, Leclerc and Norris side by side up at the front of the order. This is what we want to see early on. Hopefully we'll bunch those two back up a little bit. Leclerc will make the move happen, and he'll actually just power straight through and up into the lead of the Grand Prix. Didn't get the best qualifying run done in the world as Carlos Sainz behind. I could just see in my mirrors trying to make moves as well. We just seem to be putting ourselves in a little bit of a pocket here. Ooh, Leclerc. Leclerc, big lock up down the end of the back straight. Luckily for him, we'll just be able to hang on, but you can see he's definitely... Now he's got to the front. He's almost holding up Hamilton and Lando Norris. We saw Alonso yesterday really try and work the car hard, build up a bit of a margin early on. Did not work for him. So I think Leclerc has kind of sensed that and realised it's much better just to park the bus. Don't give those cars the free time without looking after your own tyres at the front of the order. We are right on the cusp, though, of DRS. But I think we just missed out. We've got yellows. Someone further back has ran into problems. Could that be a safety car or a red flag or anything? I'm not even sure who it is right now. Is that our teammate? I think that might be Perez. I think Perez is the one breaking down then. So we had a mechanical failure yesterday. Sergio, I mean, he hasn't stopped yet. I can't really see at the moment, as I completely misjudged my braking and turning in point through the penultimate corner. Checo's carried on going, so not too sure what happened, but not ideal. But yeah, at the front of the order, though, we just cannot keep up with those top three, so I'm going to let Carlos Sainz by, and hopefully he can drag us along. Well, I tell you what, even just following Sainz for a lap or so, I don't actually feel that the Ferrari is any quicker than us. Just none of us have got the pace against the top three right now, as Alonso's trying to close in. Maybe he could be the key. So around the outside of Sainz will go. Again, the Spaniard will try and keep the nose down the inside. It is nice to finally know that we've got the pace to fight with Ferraris in this series, but yeah, just haven't quite got enough to fight with the one I really want to be fighting with in this race. But I do feel completely powerless against those top three at the moment. I can keep Sainz and Alonso at bay fairly easily, but no matter what I do, how hard I push, we just cannot seem to take any time at your top three in this Grand Prix. Leclerc is just dragging Lando and Lewis along at this early stage of the afternoon. Now in Singapore, we tried to go long and go for the overcut on the rest of the field and try to be really quick towards the end. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out for us. I'm tempted here to do the opposite. Try and box a couple of laps earlier than the AI. The tyre wear seems to be quite high around this venue as well. Maybe if we box like the end of lap 11, switch onto the hard tyres, try and get them fired up, and then maybe we can go for an undercut. Well, the two Spaniards behind me, I've left them to battle just a little bit more, and if they're going to continue costing each other time, then this seems like a good an opportunity as any just to try and dive into the pit lane. It'll give us a couple of seconds to fall back onto if I need it as well. As look at that, yeah, they are going side by side pretty much everywhere they can right now. But yeah, tyre wear, we really do seem to be struggling more than I ever expected us to around this venue so far. Front tyres are almost, well, they're at about 50% wear if we take a look. So yeah, we're going to opt them for the hard compound. Just don't understeer into the pit lane, please. Get the car slowed down. That was pretty tidy, actually, into the pit lane here. But yeah, hopefully, obviously, what this will mean is we should be quicker on the outlap than the AI are running. I think we're around sort of like the mid 135s. But obviously, their tyre wear is just going to get worse and worse. I mean, it's going to give us a lot of work to do towards the end.
Fantastic stop, faster than we were expecting.
But we've kind of seen how powerful the DRS can be here. As long as I don't lose out too badly, it might not be the end of the world. As you can see, Russell all the way down in P18. Both he and Perez have had a pretty terrible afternoon up to this point. Luckily, we've come out ahead of Bottas. And hopefully we'll get the DRS on Hulkenberg. You can immediately see how much more grip we've got than Nico there. We've already taken a second out of him through that first sector. And we'll get right up on his gearbox by the time we make our way out onto the back straight. Let's just try and fly past him and get a little bit closer to Alexander Albon there. As you can just see, 210 miles an hour down the back straight. Here, this car, like, well, we saw it at Monza, didn't we, a few rounds ago. Really is very, very quick in a straight line. I can't wait to get it to Vegas. Purple through the middle sector as well as we rock up towards the gearbox of Alex Albon. These cars, so we can get past the Williams before turn 1 again. These cars are pretty well positioned for us. Whoa, Alex! Hello, he clearly wants to defend that one more than I thought he would. Luckily, we were able to go around the outside down at turn 1. A little bit late on the brakes, but again, we'll get the power down there, so at the moment, no one else has opted to pit. We are going to have a defensive drive towards the end of this. But, I mean, look at the delta. Look how quickly we close in on Esteban Ocon up in front there. We are just flying through this first sector. And as long as I get within that DRS range, which we just about won't. Oh, that's annoying. Just as I was hyping myself up. Oh, we got the two Alpines and one of their former drivers then all battling just outside the top 10 in points right now. Really has been a quiet season for both Alpine and VCarb, to be completely honest. But can we try and get underneath Esteban Ocon? Not quite there. Whoa, just see how slow he is, though, in that Alpine. Whoa! Oh, he wanted to pit. I didn't realise that. Ocon actually want to try and dive into the pit lane there. So we are starting to see AI in. Will we get the jump on Charles Leclerc, though? He's making his way back out of the pit lane. As long as we're with this group, that was ideally what I wanted. Is Gasly side by side with Lewis Hamilton back down at turn 1. We'll try and switch the V-carb as well, just behind, who gets to watch this battle all unfolding. But you can see Leclerc, Hamilton and Norris have all still come out in front of me. We need to try and get around Pierre Gasly here, and look at the grip we've got. Round the outside, we'll go. Oh, Gasly, you wanted to try and keep the nose there. I'm not sure he spotted me in his blind spot. Well, he wouldn't have if it was his blind spot. That's why it's called a blind spot, Matt. But yeah, now we are within 1 second of Hamilton. And the goal now is very simple. Keep up with them and try not to shred our tyres. There we go, pretty much the rest of the field then into the pit lane at the end of lap 14. So they've done very well to get the mediums to half distance here. They will stretch it. It's just I'm not convinced it's particularly quick, as Sainz and Piastri then are going to be a little way behind us. Where is Alonso going to come out in all of this? Alonso's now comfortably into P5. As Perez finally into the pit lane. So, like I said, as long as we stay inside 1 second of Lewis, I'm not really sure I can even go for an attack at the moment, even if I wanted to. Well, I always like to mention it as and where we can, but 6 cars from 6 different teams inside your top 6 right now. Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, 212, Aston Martin and Red Bull. Admittedly, only 4 of those teams are fighting for the win, but we've just kind of got to wait for this race to come back to us later on. The DRS is so powerful here. I mean, the fact Leclerc is able to hang on in front is... It just goes to show how rapid that Ferrari is. Well, I'm looking at it at the moment. We seem to be a bit more competitive on the harder compounded tyre as Lando Norris to the outside of Charles Leclerc. We're going to try and the same thing on Lewis Hamilton. Are we going to be able to find the grip there? Lewis tries to cover us off, thinks better of it. Oh, we just met in the middle there a little bit through the very next corner. But up into P3 then we'll go. Let's not forget, we spoke about it at Singapore. We haven't won a race yet this season. Really, our only shot so far has been Singapore, but after taking that win in Season 1, I'd love to try and keep the streak alive. I mean, with the car, though, as competitive as it is, surely somewhere will fall our way inside these final 6 GPs. But yeah, we seem to have decent pace at the moment. These hard tyres, for some reason, this car always works better in the second stint. I cannot explain it. Oh, Norris, big mistake out of that final corner. That's going to leave the McLaren vulnerable, and we've got to try and go for it. Back up in towards turn 1 there, otherwise Leclerc might be able to break free. This is what Leclerc wants to see, though. Those 2 cars behind him going wheel to wheel. We'll use plenty more battery off for turn 1. And we now move up to the top Brit in this Grand Prix. But you just see we have to absolutely send it through those next few corners. We cannot let Leclerc get out of that DRS. Otherwise, the battle for the win is completely over. Well, I'm really worried about talking about it too early in this race still, but at the moment, I wish we'd moved over to the hard tyres even earlier. These are feeling absolutely fantastic at this stage of the Grand Prix and hanging on much better than the mediums were ever able to, as we're going to try and get a run then on Leclerc down the back straight. At 3/4 distance, Leclerc, well, we'll get back down the inside. I actually ran myself a bit deep into the turn that time. But yeah, just starting to get Leclerc guessing what we're going to do. We tried, obviously, in the sprint to use up all of George Russell's battery. Then our engine went bang. Will that strategy work in the main event? Right, let's try it again then on Charlie Boy. See this time around if we can get a run on the Ferrari down the back straight. Leclerc has been all-conquering so far throughout most of the second half of this season. And is he going to claim another victory today? We'll try on, hang the car there. Oh, hello. Leclerc really doesn't want to give me any room. I mean, it was harsh but fair defending, I would argue. Probably didn't have the car far enough alongside as we will try and shove the nose down the inside at the very next corner. Again, just fill his mirrors. Let him wonder what we're going to do next. As you can just see again, just covers me off as we make our way through the Turkey section. This is a brilliant little battle with Charlie Boy for the win. And Hamilton and Norris must be looking at this going, we've got to try and find a way past both of them. Well, 3rd time's the charm then, surely, against Leclerc here as we make our way down the back straight. This time, he's going to try and swing defensive, but we're going to get the car there. Oh, no, contact. Leclerc just turned in on me.
Body's taken a little damage, just watch out for it.
Don't say he's got away with that with no front wing damage. How on earth has Leclerc survived that one? Without any damage to his car. Again, we will fling it down the inside. That time round, we'll make the move stick. And down the inside of the Ferrari, we actually get a warning for a collision there. We were down the inside, we were the car in front when contact was made. Don't really think you can blame us for that one. But has Leclerc just picked up damage from that?
Lose places because of a penalty.
Oh no, don't say. I think, well, he's staying out there. Leclerc's staying out, so he definitely hasn't picked up much damage. 5 laps to go with this Grand Prix, and tempers are certainly starting to flare. This is like watching the driver career mode between myself and Charlie Boy right now, as down the inside he'll go. Norris thinks about it as well there, and that kind of ruined my chance to try and go for the switchback on Charlie out of turn 1.
Trying to keep focus.
This battle, I think, it might rage on right to the very end of this GP. Right, come on then. Let's try and see if we can actually make the move again. This time maybe without contact, as once more Leclerc, he'll swing defensive, but he just does not go early enough to try and cover off that inside line. And again, oh, we just throw ourselves a bit too deep into the corner. This time around, Lando Norris will try and move through. We've got to keep the nose, though, down the inside of the McLaren, and I think he's kind of just gone, I'm much happier just to let those two potentially crash each other out and claim the win that way. Oh, just huge moment of oversteer as we try and put the power down, and Leclerc might sense that as a chance to break free. We've got to use plenty of battery up in towards the final few corners. Do we stay inside the DRS window?
The underbody's incurred some slight damage, but nothing too serious at the moment. Just be careful.
Oh, we're definitely starting to overheat these tyres towards the end. We've got to look after them, but we stay in the range this time. Well, that little bit of underfloor damage might be the difference maker late on in this race. We're struggling more and more for wheel spin in every big traction zone. We are trying to keep the tyres cool, but we can't afford to lose too much time to Charles Leclerc either. So we make our way up through the S's once again. I mean, you can just see still, even with that damage, we are quite quick through there. We'll ignore that little bit of curb usage. Maybe just trying to take like the 2021 lines. And there as well, I apologise. Oh, we've got yellows. Why have we got yellows? Hamilton! Hamilton might be out! Lewis Hamilton late on in the day here at COTA, and his championship hopes go from bad to worse. Charles Leclerc leading the Grand Prix. Lewis looked dead set for either a P4 or a P3, but immediately that hope has been eradicated, and just like Sepang in 2016, Lewis Hamilton with a late race mechanical failure. That might be his title dreams over with. Charles Leclerc, when he hears that news, will be smiling under the helmet of his Ferrari as he makes his way towards the final lap of this Grand Prix. I think he's just about got enough over myself here late on in the day. We are just about still staying inside that DRS range. We're going to need a big final lap attack. I was within a second. How have we not been registered within a second there? Has that potential loss of DRS there just cost us on the final lap of this Grand Prix? I can only hope Leclerc's used up too much battery, but I think our tyres just starting to give up towards the end of this one and might actually leave us vulnerable to Lando Norris behind rather than able to attack Charles Leclerc in front. We've got to try and send it through one last time, see if we can get just that little bit closer to the Monegasque man, but I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think Leclerc's got enough in that Ferrari, and you can just see he opens up that gap again to over a second there. Will Lando Norris be able to capitalise on the final lap? The pole sitter, it was a bit of a, kind of flyer out of the bag last night that made the difference to put him on pole. That McLaren car really is simply not competitive enough right now. As down the back straight will go, though. Lando Norris is going to roll past us in towards the next corner. We're going to fling it back down the inside, though. Way too aggressive. We didn't really get it stopped. I'll give him the place for now, but isn't going to stop us trying to go for it again, as maybe just a bit too aggressive there. Could not keep the car on the road. Tyres seem to have completely fallen off on the last lap. I mean, look at that. We can't even keep up with him through the final couple of corners. We took the gamble with the strategy. It hasn't paid off today. Through the final corner, though, Charles Leclerc puts one hand on the Drivers' Championship trophy. He will win here in Texas. Lando Norris comes through for P2, and we get another podium.
What a performance! He's left the field behind. Charles Leclerc wins it.
Such an important victory at this stage of the season. Any points you can achieve to go towards the table is really going to mean a lot to the team. So well done as they prepare for the end of the season.
Ferrari are at it again. An excellent performance at today's Grand Prix, and they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there.
Well, there we go, Charles Leclerc. Another fantastic weekend for the Ferrari man. He takes the win in the Grand Prix after a bit of a rough sprint race yesterday. But still, yeah, fantastic drive there. We did snooker away fastest lap, though, so stopped him picking up the maximum 26 points as well. Lando Norris in P2 ahead of myself there, with Alonso in a very quiet P4, beating out fellow Spaniard in Carlos Sainz, who defended from Verstappen right to the checkered flag there. Stroll in 7th ahead of Tsunoda and Iwasa, with our big title rival Oscar Piastri down in P10. Where was Perez at the end of that one? P18 for our teammate. Really not a day to write home about for him or for Lewis Hamilton. That means in terms of the championship, well, Leclerc now with a 77-point buffer at the top of the table, but only 11 points in it between Hamilton, Sainz and Alonso. That is still right down to the wire between now and the end of the year. 8 points in it between us, Perez, and Oscar Piastri as well. A little bit further behind there. So actually, yeah, there's a lot of battles. 12 points in it between Norris, Russell and Verstappen. Pretty much everyone that isn't called Charles Leclerc inside your top 10 is locked into a very, very narrow battle between now and the end of the year there. Constructors-wise, once again, we continue to make decent ground, but we can't do anything between now and the end of the year against Aston Martin. Red Bull now, the gap between them and McLaren cut down to just 5 points. McLaren do open up a little buffer ahead of Aston Martin with that result as well. But yeah, that one is going to be the title fight to watch out for between now and the end of the year. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when we return ready in Mexico.